Welcome back to the podcast. I'm joined by David.
Hey guys, good evening. Or shall we say good eye?
Yeah, we should say goodbye.
Good eye, Bruce. How's your colour blue? I suck at accents, as anyone who listens for a while will truly know.
Clearly. Oh, the
Well, it's a pretty
Australian.
quiet race, actually. Wasn't there nothing much to talk about?
Yeah, I
Or was
mean,
it the most red flags ever in a single race?
yeah, yeah. Land down
Oh,
under where the Brits have to actually get their asses up early to watch it live.
yep, my one day off, and I was still up at 5:30. So back at me, I can feel it now. But there you go. That's what we do for the sport we love. It was worth it though. Come on, that was a race that was worth it.
Oh yeah. I mean, practice was just. Oh my god, I feel so. I mean, getting into practice and getting into the quali.
You're gonna have to lead practice and qualify,
Yeah,
so none of that. As I said, the timings unfortunately just didn't work for me with my hours I work and everything.
Yeah, I mean it was like 2:30 in the morning.
Yeah, and
Here in
even though
the
like
UK.
6 o'clock is usually when I'm starting work and commuting about,
Mm.
so
And it was just like, it was bog standard practice apart from Perez. I mean, bloody hell, Perez had a shocker of a weekend. I mean, granted the race, yeah, okay, he pulled it back, but the he turned three, he just could not get right for some unknown reason.
you think it was more him or the car? I mean, I've actually got a point
I
that could relate into this.
I
Something I
think
want to.
it was the car more than him because
I mean, we all know he had the brake issues in qualifying,
well, he was having them right through practice. He was having an absolute mare.
which brings on to something I want to sort of talk about. Really, it's sort of a wider thing, but this. Are we seeing this year, and Red Bull in particular, does the car seem a little less reliable than previous years, or is that just me? Are we seeing that they're now pushing them to such a limit?
Well, that's the point. Yeah, it
We know
was
Max had the issues in Jeddah
what with his drive shaft.
that
Yeah.
meant he had to didn't finish quality, and then we've got Perez not managing to make quality here in Australia.
Mm.
You know,
Which
Red Bull are still walking away with the racing right now. Spoilers if you've listened to this, you must have seen the race, but it just doesn't seem as clinical as years gone by.
compare it to last year, it's definitely not clinical.
Well, no, I mean, if you compare like for like Red Bull last year at this point, Red Bull had had a double DNF in Bahrain and Max hadn't finished Australia.
And Leclerc was walking away with the championship.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll come on to him later.
Hmm.
But,
Um.
there seems to be, and like, if you know, I'm like jumping about a little bit, the racing stuff, the failure to George's car. It's just stuff we didn't see a huge amount of.
No. The reliability's just. I don't know. Is it just everybody in general just trying to push
Are they
too
all pushing the
much?
cars that little bit harder?
Hmm. I mean, interesting point. The obviously qualifying was qualifying bar Perez not finishing, which
Hmm.
is unusual for Checo, if I'm honest.
Yeah, you're talking about, my feelings. I love Perez a lot, and
I
well
like
deserved
Perez.
driver of the day. Well deserved driver of the day this weekend. Did
Oh
my
yeah.
fantasy team the world of good.
I have not seen the results, so I don't know what the results are on that yet. But
I haven't looked at
you
his team
guys
now,
will
but
see that later.
but Perez did what Perez does so well, which is the great number two driver. It was a day when winning it probably was beyond. I honestly don't think he could have got any more out of that car.
No, but he was driving the nuts off it, literally.
Oh yeah, driving round everybody quite literally.
I mean, if you, I mean, we'll basically go to the race here, and it's I mean, to point the start, but I'll bring this up now before we get into this conversation. Did you hear what Stefano Dominicali has said?
No, I must have missed that one.
Dominicali came out and said that they want to cut the practice sessions.
Oh, I'd been hearing talk and I'd been hearing stuff about that and seen stuff on Twitter. I didn't know exactly what had been said, but
Yeah, he basically had come out and said that whether there's a possibility of them cutting practice sessions. Now, in my eyes, as a fan, it's bad for them to do it. I can see where he's coming from in terms of possibly saving cars' reliability because they keep ploughing the race, they keep ploughing more races into the calendar.
yeah, but if you're going to
But
follow that, we might as well not bother racing because the cars are made to be used, and the teams know before the start of the season how many weekends, practices,
exactly,
etc. they've got to do. If they can't build a car to last that long, that's their problem.
But
go on.
The fans, it's what I would feel sorry for. If they decided to do that, see, this is where I think that they will not do it because one, it will lose the sport way too much credibility. Two, it will lose them way too much money, the revenue that comes in.
Yeah.
I mean, there was what, 444,000 fans over the entire weekend. That's a lot of money.
I remember hearing that. I did hear a little bit about this when you mentioned it, but I didn't realize it was Dominicali had said it, and they were talking about quite often the practice sessions are cheaper tickets and so on. Obviously, because race weekends are silly, and so a lot of people will go and just watch a practice session. And
oh yeah,
I mean, funny, I was listening to something, and it had an ex-Ferrari engineer as one of the guests.
Was that the one that also had Matt Gallagher on as well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't want to specifically name something, but you'll know what I'm on about. And I'm sorry to anyone listening, it sounds cryptic, but
yeah.
And he was saying, basically, from engineers' point of view, they'd love nothing more than to have 20 practice sessions a week.
Yeah, I know.
Now, I will say there is one situation where I think it needs addressing a little bit, and that is sprint weekends. Because I do not see the point in the practice session after the sprint.
No. But
maybe that needs reshuffling slightly.
Is it our first sprint weekend in 4 weeks' time?
Could be. We've got this weird gap because we have
China
30,000 races to fit into this year. We've got this weird gap.
China,
where China would have been.
Yeah,
nothing got put in its place in the end.
No, this was where China was going to be. This is why we've got the 4-week gap. So yeah, there'll be no podcast for like 4 weeks, and it's going to drive me insane because it's like, oh, why are you doing this F1? You know what I mean? I get why.
We could always, if you wanted to, we could throw it like halfway, do one night, not with a race, just talk about wider F1 issues or something.
We could do. And
sorry about the staff meeting on there, ladies and gentlemen.
It's just, I get that they couldn't fit China in, but whoever decided that the first sprint race, and I think it is a sprint weekend, at Baku, of all places.
We've got to be due one before so long. Because we've got about 6 this year, haven't we?
Let me just quickly check Azerbaijan. Yes, it is a sprint race at Baku. What the hell? That's gonna be worse than Australia. And to get to that point, there'll be so many red flags. I can't see the sprint race working at Baku, honestly. But okay. Money where my mouth is. If it works, it works. But if it doesn't, it's point proven.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, because Baku's, it's like Jeddah, really. Like Jeddah is one where you've no room for error.
No, on Baku, you definitely don't have room for error. That's the thing. The sprint race, you get to that castle section. Something goes wrong, you block that castle section.
Somebody in this podcast knows only too well.
What, blocking the castle section? No, mine
Well, it
was,
was a bit after the castle section. You know about blocking the track at Baku.
yeah, mine was basically the corner where ended, I think, Ricardo did himself in, or Norris,
I
one
always
of,
remember it's the corner where was it Vettel and Hamilton had their quite famous coming together.
yeah. Yeah, it's just not quite sector 3. It's not quite, is it not quite, is it not quite start of sector 3?
Just about, yeah.
It's basically it's 4 corners from the stupid little
Yeah.
S-bend before the straight, basically. Something like that.
But yeah, that's my thought on that is, personally, I think practice sessions leave them as they are. Because I think, as you say, it's time for the cars on track, people to see, engineers to tinker. And if it means that cars aren't being as reliable, well, that's kind of on the teams
Do
to.
you mean after the sprint or after quali?
After the sprint, there's never a practice session after a quali. There's
no,
never a practice session after a quali.
yeah, there
But
is.
on the sprint weekends,
There is
no, there
now.
isn't.
There is now. The Azerbaijan Grand Prix is practice, quali, right, P1, quali, P2, sprint, race.
We're having a quali and a sprint.
Yeah, it's Baku, innit? Be qualifying for the sprint race, and then the sprint race will set the order for the grid for the
Gosh,
race.
yes. Oh, well, we'll catch up eventually.
But
What was I going to say?
I don't understand.
The practice.
Why have that second practice session there? I know we're supposed to be doing Australia here, but why have the second practice session? The car will be in Parc Ferme because it's
That's what I mean.
It's
That's why the
qualifying.
plan of practice is pointless because they can't make changes.
No, that doesn't make any sense. But it's F1 unless they're going to twist it so where they can do the setup change, but they can't because they've already done qualifying. They've already gone into Parc Ferme. Meh. Okay.
They could do it round and do the sprint race either last or do it first thing Sunday morning or something.
That'd be too much pressure on that car. And plus, if they've got the support races there, then
So yeah. Sorry, I don't buy this pressure on the car argument. I know that's not getting at you. I get what you're saying, but
no, but
you're building the cars to race.
That's what I mean. But in their eyes, it'll be way too much wear on gearbox and engine and stuff.
Why? Because the car's doing the same distance.
Oh, we know. Well, for what? The sprint?
If you do the sprint on the same day as the race, the car's actually not going to be any more miles. You're just doing them closer together.
Yeah, true.
And you have enough time
knows?
to cool the car down in between. That's just as you say, sprint races and also places like Baku. I don't know what the rules are when they can close the roads. Because don't forget, it's in the middle of a city, so you can't just shut the whole thing down for a weekend. It's like the Isle of Man racing.
Yeah, well,
they have a set time of day they can close because obviously the roads need to be open for people to get around.
Yeah, well, that's why they're doing it the way they're doing it by the looks of it. But back to Australia. We've gone way off on tangent.
Us on tangent? Never.
I mean, fair play to George at the beginning.
Fair play to George and to Lewis, and it's not often you're going to hear me say that.
Clip it now. Clip that now.
You know what I mean? Merck have obviously made a jump forward a little quicker than some of us were expecting.
Yeah, but they're not supposed to. Yeah, but they're not supposed to be getting
the cars were on fire this weekend, quite literally in one case.
Yeah, but they're not supposed to be getting the upgrades to Imola.
Well, whether Australia just really suits their car, I don't know, but they certainly had pace. I think they could have been seriously challenging for second and third had Russell's car not combusted.
Well, did we ever find out what actually happened to her?
I never heard. I must have had a quick look on the F1 website this afternoon just to see if there was any news I needed to know. And I didn't get an instant answer jump out at me there.
Well, Haas's protest failed.
What, they protesting that the wall was too close to the track?
It was to do with something we'll get on to in a bit.
Yeah, I know what you mean, because I've got something to talk about from that as well.
Because Mr. Gunter Steiner was not a happy man, I believe.
Guns are unhappy? Never. That's That's 3 more seasons of Drive to Survive then.
I know. I do like Gunther Steiner.
Even if you do make themselves look like a bunch of assholes.
Oh, but I kind of get why the race director did some of the calls he did.
So what? So if we want to stick on, if we just talk about poor old Charles Leclerc managed 3 corners and then got ceremoniously put out to Stroll.
Jesus. I mean, okay, it was a racing incident, but
It wasn't actually. I will say fair play to the FIA there. Correct call then.
they could have
Not.
screwed Stroll.
Yeah, but in the first couple of corners, we've had this debate before.
Mm,
You want the drivers to race. You want them to be willing to attack.
Yeah.
If you're gonna pick them up for every silly little detail of stuff like that in the first corners when 20 cars are trying to occupy the same piece of tarmac, they're going to end up not going within half a mile of each other.
yeah.
And that's not what we want to see.
I mean, it was just. It was chaotic.
I was
Oh,
in the start, the chaos came later.
oh yeah, the chaos was later, wasn't it? But it's just. I mean, it's typical for, it's typical of any of the racetracks. It's typically, yeah, first corner.
You've got 20 people storming into a corner all at once.
Hmm.
And the track's not big enough for that, and it's how it is, and that's how it should be. Like I say, I'm all for it. Let them get on. If they make a mistake, they make a mistake. That's how things happen. And yeah, paid the price, and say his championship's looking rather lost already. I know it's very early days yet, but
To be honest, I'm not rating Leclerc this season.
I think it's been bad. I think bad luck's plaguing him a little. Well, I think bad luck and Ferrari are plaguing him a little bit. Let's be honest.
Hmm.
You know what? The more I think about it, the more this happens. I could see him in a Merc.
I think they'd got. I think if McLaren keep going the way they do as well, I think Merck might end up going Norris's way. They've got the
And
money.
now they got him out of that contract again.
He's got a clause though. It could get him out of it.
Oh, Merc could always get him out. At the end of the day, Merc supplied the engine to get him out. But I don't know.
I mean, to be honest, the weirdest thing is, I'm not looking at the standings, but obviously I've got my little thing in front of me. None of the cars have 0 points. None of the teams have 0 points. Haas have got 7 points, obviously. Alfa Romeo.
Yeah. Well, that's not surprising, especially because I think Australia in particular was a good chance for some lower. I mean, look, McLaren got points this weekend.
AlphaTauri has 1 point, and so does Williams. Nobody is actually on 0 points so far.
McLaren didn't score bad points this weekend, but okay, they were sort of gifted it.
Never look a gift horse in our mouth.
Oh yeah, never worry how you get them. If they're on the scorecard, it doesn't matter how they got there.
I mean, do I say this now or do I?
Say now if you want.
Okay, let's bring it up. Hamilton fans, if you're listening, cover your ears. Michael Massey was in the paddock. He was there because of the V8s.
Well, plus he lives in Australia. It's not surprising he'd be there when they're in Australia. Anyway, it's the supercars, not V8s anymore. So they're not called the V8s. It's Australian supercars.
Well, whatever it was. I think one caught on fire. There was bad fire in the pit lane during George's interview in the pen. But
I'm not sure. I'll probably try and catch the super. I have to watch their YouTube channel for the highlights. So.
But I thought journalists were supposed to be biased and impartial.
You mean unbiased?
Well, whatever, unbiased.
Oh, is your Kravitz rant?
Yes, this is my Ted Kravitz rant. Yes, I'm calling you out, Ted, because I actually quite appalled at you. The behaviour of him live on air during his notebook, he went on to say about Massey and him being in the paddock. He has no right to be in the F1 paddock. Well, I'm sorry, he was there for a support race, so he has every right to be within that paddock.
Plus,
And he's
he was
human.
never officially banned.
No, he was never
To my
banned.
knowledge, there is only one person who was actually banned from F1 paddocks.
Can't remember who that was.
I was going to say it was Flavio Briatore, wasn't it?
No idea.
He got because he was caught up in all the Alonso cheating incident,
Oh, right, okay.
and I'm sure he got a lifetime ban from the F1. But anyway, so
But
that's just F1
did
trivia. But no, yeah, he's not banned.
no,
And also, he's probably still got a lot of friends and contacts in the FIA. So even if he wasn't there
and
for supercars,
within the
I'm not
F1
surprised.
grid.
I'm not surprised if he'd blag himself a bloody pit lane pass for that weekend.
Yeah, but did you not get why the comment was made by Crofty to say that he was only, you know, like live on air that about him being human?
Hmm.
Because that was a bit of a thing at Kravitz.
Yeah.
And yeah, it really did kind of just piss me off because it's like, look, stop, yes, they talk about Abu Dhabi
Well,
2021.
they're going to talk about Abu Dhabi for years to come because it was a pivotal point in the championship.
Yeah,
No matter which side of the fence you're on, it was a pivotal moment.
but, you
But I
know,
know what you're saying. It
the
doesn't
guy,
require.
the guy got the flack, had the shit, dealt, had his consequences and all this lot, he got his comeuppance for a bad mistake or whatever, and it's like, why basically turn around and say that live on air that he's got no right to be there, which is wrong. He's got every right to be there. If he's there with a support race,
Not even the support race. He's
well, he
just got
was.
every right to
Yeah,
be
but
there in life. Well, I know what you're saying he is. Yeah, I get that. But I'm saying to me, he's just, yeah,
mm,
he's a person. Say, unless somebody's officially been banned from F1, then they've got every right to be there.
yeah, but it was just the way he did what he did, and I used to like Ted, but for the way he's been, um, not just recently, it was the whole Lewis was robbed all this lot, and it
Mm.
was like, nah, just get off the screen, Ted. You know what I mean? Just you go, bring back Johnny Herbert or somebody like that, because you shouldn't be. If you're gonna be like that, you're in the wrong job. I get why
Yeah,
he's there, he stirs the shit a bit, but there's been comments there that shouldn't have been said, especially not live on air.
correct. I mean, to go back to your original point, being completely impartial is pretty much impossible because we're people.
Well, yeah,
But you have to try and show an impartiality.
yeah, and he kind of hasn't with the whole Hamilton thing, and then obviously saying, getting up in arms about Massey being within the F1 paddock,
Hmm.
which is basically that's like kind of showing his hand towards Hamilton, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
Which is okay, fair enough. You've got the likes of bloody Naomi Schiff and all that lot who bang on about Hamilton and stuff like that. I get it. Yes, he's a seven-time world champion. She's black, he's black, of course. But it's just there comes a point to where you just you just don't do it. It's like me turning around to you and say Alan had done something wrong, for example, and then me turn around going, meh, at you, sort of
That's what
thing.
we pretty much normally do anyway.
No, but live, you know what I mean? Live, like now.
Yeah. Yeah, when he wouldn't be around to talk to, give his side of the events.
Yeah. And it's just a case of, you know, we need to remain in the middle,
Yeah.
and that's what I'm feeling he isn't doing, and he shouldn't, Ted's not doing that, and I don't understand how he's not been pulled up on it. It's
He
been
maybe
report.
has. He
Yeah,
maybe
but this is the thing. It's been reported in, apart from the papers, it's been caught.
maybe he has been sort of given a word in his ear quietly, sort of.
I bloody hope so, because it's not on. It's not fair. You know, that's basically going to instigate a lot of people to turn around and then give Massey more flack for being
Oh yeah.
there. And it's like, well, the guy's had enough. The guy had death threats and all this lot at him. Jeez, give the guy a break. He was only there because of, like we said, the support event, but he was there because he wanted to be there.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's all I'm going to say on that map. Okay, where were we?
Where were we? We're talking about. I don't know. I've lost
Leclerc?
track. Yeah, Leclerc's crashed. Not his fault. Just got turned round, but first got incident right. Then I believe the next incident was Russell's car bursting into flames.
It was kind of odd that why didn't he drag it? This is my point on it. Why didn't he drag it in the pit lane? Why did he drag
I
it
think he had too many cars up the inside of him, didn't he? Which he was
with
struggling
Stroll on
to.
it with Stroll on his inside
Yeah, and I
at
think he
that
just couldn't
point?
get the cars safely across. Plus,
Mm.
as was commented, the car sounded fine. I'm not sure it was just like an exhaust fire or something.
Well, that's what I mean. When they showed the onboard replay or whatever, it sounded all right.
Hmm.
Apart from it being commented, it sounded like a rocket going past
Yeah.
because of the fire and the exhaust and whatever. I mean, it's a bit early for the barbecue, Merc. You haven't even won the race yet. Poor George.
Yeah, the poor guy, he's spent his time, he slugged away in that Williams for years. I finally get my shot at the Mercedes. And the Mercedes, a bag of shit.
Yeah. I mean, if yes, he got the shot as we refer back to when Hamilton had the Rona,
Yeah.
and the way he drove that car, yeah. But I can see why Toto picked Russell.
Oh yeah, we all knew he was there for that job. In fact, when that job came up, he was just waiting for that job to come up. Like I say, we now have the thought of who's going next in that sea, which is where there's a bit more unsurety at this point.
See, that's the thing. Would you stick Schumacher in it? Maybe not. I mean, I like
We-
Mick,
We've we've
but
had we've had this discussion. Schumacher's not ready for a bad fun running car yet.
I would say Norris. Honestly, looking at Norris and how he is at the moment, I would say Norris.
Uh,
McLaren seem to be on a downward slope in terms of what the hell they've done with the structure of the team. They got rid of,
mm,
well, one dude left and then they completely restructured themselves and put like 4 or 5 different people
yeah,
into a role. And it's like, what? I get why you're doing it, but is it working? Only time will tell. I mean, like I say, Piastri, did they make the right call? I mean, okay, he had a good race, but did they make a mistake of pushing? Because they did. They just, like I said, pushing Danny out.
Did they push him out, or was he ready to eventually leave?
Nah,
I think he could. I think he could kind of see what was coming. I think he got out at the right point.
yeah, honestly, I think he was pushed, and I know Horner basically had a dig at Zach. Well, not a dig, but a joking dig at Zach at the press conference, and basically said, "What have you done? What did you do to Daniel?" Um, he's looking a bit skinny when he came to us, so we've had to feed him up a bit. I mean, it was nice to see. Yes, he wasn't driving, but it was nice to see Danny Rick there. It was nice to see him on the pit wall.
It's
I
no
mean,
fact if we're talking about Piastri, also at this point mention, well done to him. Points at his home event.
yeah, but I still don't rate him. I kind of don't. I'm not too sure about Logan Sargent either. Not sure about him. I mean, honestly, that Williams is a bag of shite. Kind of. Unless your name's Alex Albon. Jeez. Another guy that seems to drive the nuts off a car. Because like I say, Alex Albon can do okay for himself, but I think the car's just a bag of shite. Well, most of the cars are. The Alpha Tauri just seems a bag of shit and all.
Most of the cars that aren't a Red Bull this year.
Yeah, but counter the Red Bull out of the equation. Alpha Tauri used to at least get top 10.
Oh yeah.
Gasly
Yeah, but
used
once
to
again,
dr-
that
Gasly.
almost goes back to something I've said in the past. Is it just that other teams have made bigger leaps forward?
I mean, yeah, the Alpha. What's going on with Alfa Romeo?
I think they've just, like I say, I think they've just been caught. I think literally, as stupid as it sounds, they've just been caught by too many others.
Yeah. I mean, Bottas decided to adopt the mullet. Now.
Well, that's what's made the difference, isn't it?
Too much drag. I do like Valtteri though. I do. But yeah, just considering, it just seems like midfielders, apart from Ferrari looked like it had no pace at one point. It still doesn't look like it's got pace. I don't think they're running that Ferrari full.
And do you reckon they're scared too?
Yeah, I think some. I think after all that crap that went on with it, was it Leclerc and his ECU? Was it his ECU or was
It
it
was the electronic
battery?
control unit, wasn't it?
Yeah. I just feel like they've just turned them down. I mean, we'll soon know when we get to Imola. Because if they put that car back up for technically a home race, we'll soon see. Because they won't want to disappoint the Tifosi, will they? I mean, if we get the action like we had in Australia at Monza as well, that's gonna be a cracking race.
Oh yeah.
I know we are jumping completely over, well and all, truly all over here.
If this isn't unless this is your first podcast, you should be quite used to that by now.
Well, you've had last season, and then you've got obviously this season's, and it just seemed the race. we got through the start. We got the action out of the way a little bit. Then it seemed to settle down a little bit.
And then we got to what could have been spectacularly horrible, which was Alex Albon's crash. How did nobody else collect that car when it spun back onto the track?
Oh, was that when he collected he hit the curb, didn't he? Too much. He hit that
They reckon
curb a
he hit
little bit too
they
much.
reckon he might have hit the curb, which might have thrown the tyre out, didn't it?
Mm. Oh yeah, how he didn't.
But that car came sliding back onto the track in a cloud of dust.
Yeah.
How everyone managed to avoid it, I think, is a bit of minor luck.
Mm.
And that, of course, led to our first red flag.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people will be like, well, it seems stupid, Well, no, it wasn't that one. It was later on to say. I think it was the second red flag. But yeah, it's you.
Well, the red flag was to clear the track because he didn't like how much debris had ended up.
Not just that, it was the gravel as well.
Well, that was it. There was all the debris from the accident, the gravel and that.
Mm. I mean, people be saying, well, it's a bit stupid to chuck a red flag, and it's like, well, they have to put people out on the track. They might have to bring a sweeper out on the track.
A frigging telehandler and stuff like that, and it just all takes.
And then check the barrier over, make sure it's still good. And I get I'm kind of impressed with Neil's vintage for some of the
Making some decent calls,
decisions.
yeah.
This time, and it was like there is one we'll come on to later. It was a bit perplexing, but yeah. But yeah, what was it? Oh, it was the IndyCar. What's the one of the IndyCar race or whatever? And you thought, I mean, I thought Guan Yu Zhou, his accident at Silverstone was bad. There was a bad one at IndyCar. It launched the car about 5 foot in the air
I'd have to look it up.
over another car. And it happened to be Grosjean's car, I believe.
Well, the one that got flipped. Wow, there's
No,
flashbacks
it
for the
didn't
program.
it didn't get flipped. It was I think it was either Joseph Newgarden or Scott McLaughlin. It was one of them, I think.
Oh no, that's Scotty.
And the car just went 5 foot in the air. Literally ramped the other car because it hit the tyre.
That's just one of those things. That's kind of thing that can.
But yeah, could you imagine what could have happened if an F1 car had, if somebody had hit Albon's car?
Oh yeah.
I mean, we all saw it last year when Stroll and Alonso, future teammates came together and one sent him into a wheelie.
Yeah.
We've all seen what it looks like when an F1 car can go airborne. Doesn't even have to go, and can slide along the ground or whatever, but it just proves how safe.
How good we've got at this game.
Well, it needed to be after what's happened. And I mean, a lot of people were, you did hear some people complaining, well, why the red sort of the red flag, but then some people were asking if he was all right.
Tell you what, though, we got a treat for the red flags, didn't we?
You got what?
We got a treat as a result of the red flags. We certainly got to see some action.
Yeah.
So of course we got racing, we got a little nice quiet period. Max retook the lead, and
Hmm.
man, the speed that Red Bull had to go round Hamilton, how he did.
Yeah. But a lot of this is the thing. A lot of people are saying, has that Red Bull got more of an advantage on its DRS and everything? I
Yeah,
actually,
but
I
if the
don't
car
think it has.
if the car's been inspected and is passing,
Yeah, this is what I mean. If it's passing, like you say, if it's passing the FIA, like the scrutineer checks,
this is where I have this big issue at times with people when they do that whole. So we had it through the Merc era now. As you know, I wasn't a fan, but at the same time, the car was legal. The car is legal. They've just somehow
yeah,
hit the regulations so much better than everyone else.
mm,
It shouldn't be up to them to have to slow down.
no,
It should be up to the other teams to catch up,
yeah,
in my opinion.
yeah, let them catch up. The Red Bull is a absolute missile, and Perez proved that really from where he was as well,
Well, I mean, say Max proved it. I've told you the way Max went round Lewis around the outside of him.
and then just fucked off,
Yeah, and then I'm
basically.
sure Red Bull, once they get to about 10 seconds ahead, just turn everything down. There's no point stressing it.
Mm.
Because every time,
Until
and
Max
every time,
decides to take a
go
triple.
cut in the grass.
Yeah, but yeah, 'cause it just seems weird. Like you say, goes around outside of Hamilton and then just check. It does just checks out,
Yeah.
but it just proves how Red Bull have got that car. But they've got it. That's the thing. They've got Adrian Newey for Christ's sake on Red Bull. They What did he study?
But
Ground
it's like,
effect.
yeah, well, Adrian Newey's just a god. But it's like everyone goes on about how the Aston Martin suddenly got fast by being like Red Bull. But they've got the ex-Red Bull aerodynamic man.
Exactly.
And I've said before, I thought there was a great interview with him because they were talking about how, he's just copied the Red Bull design. And he just turned around and said, look, he spent the last 5, 6 years looking at that car. He
Yeah.
can't just forget all that just because he's now in a different office.
No.
He knows what he saw and he knows it works.
Hmm.
So it's not surprising that he tries to use that.
In a way that won't get him potentially lawsuited because of.
Trust me, I'm sure Red Bull would have been quick enough to have a go at him had they thought.
But this is what I mean. They have to be. He's done it in a very careful manner
Hmm.
because otherwise it will. Because there is some sort of exit clause on staff personnel as well that they have to have. Well, it was like Vasseur before he went on to Ferrari.
Yeah.
There was so much. It was like when. It was like bloody Andreas Seidel before he became CEO of. I want to
Oh
say
yeah. They'll be
Sauber.
thinking, they're thinking NDAs and all sorts will fly around, but
Yeah.
how enforceable they are, I don't think anyone's ever really tested it out.
Oh, they are. They will be enforceable. They just people are clever. Of clever ways of getting round said stuff like the example Aston Martin. Enough money and
Hmm.
clever. And you've got the like you say the aerodynamic person from Red Bull. You're going to do it subtly, so it's
Oh
still
yeah.
within that limit of not getting that person screwed. And I give credit to Aston Martin again. Flawless, well, to a degree, but they have bounced back well, and they are do. We said, oh, Fernando's, maybe this is a bad move considering the state of the 2022 car. Are we being proven wrong here? at this
I
point.
think we are. I think we are. We definitely are. Which I've done this in the past. I've done this a couple of times in the past, so it's not surprising to find me wrong on something like this.
Because I remember saying, even numerous accounts of saying that, oh, this is a bad move for Alonso.
Hmm.
But I think we were basing our assumptions off the 2022 car being shit, and perhaps it still being shite. But boy, are we wrong, and boy, is it making some interesting racing.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Definitely is.
And so we get to the second red flag.
Which one?
Of course, we are
Who calls that one?
K-Mag.
Oh, was that where he ends up slamming it into the concrete wall? And actually, no. This is, I
Yeah, the
believe,
wall stepped out on him.
the suspension gave way.
I have no idea. You couldn't actually see that from any of the video. From a lot of the footage, it looked like he just literally drove into the wall.
Yeah, I believe what believe happened was, not entirely sure, but this is my speculation on it. Is his he's right rear? That was the one that got the damage, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. His right rear suspension basically buggered, and because it hit the because of the way it hit the concrete, it was just interesting to see the tyre go, yeah, I'm going, bye bye. Because
Tyre
it
just the best thing was the commentary team were brilliant, weren't they? Because oh, there's a green flag, we've cleared the track, and then it showed the shot of this tyre lying in the middle of the track. No, we might want to clean that up.
yeah.
And obviously, I think they realised because the rim had sort of spread shards of metal everywhere, which is what they decided to red flag it for.
Yeah.
And of course, those Hamilton fans, if they're not still listening, when we mention a red flag 2 laps from the end, they might want to stop listening again
Yeah.
because that will give them flashbacks.
Yeah.
But we had a bit of a delay while they basically decided what they were doing.
Bit.
And this is actually after the third red flag we technically had, but
That was the
final one.
that was the third red flag.
Yeah.
K-Mag.
Yeah, that was the second one, that's what I'm saying. So we got that cleared up. We got the cars going. And then all hell broke loose. I will throw in at this point, I would have paid good money to be in the Alpine debrief after this weekend.
Holy fucking shit.
Well, lads, what do you think went wrong there?
Yeah, but the worst thing was they brought him up on commentary.
Literally, as it was happening, I know. The guy gets dragged.
They
He's just there, watched both his cars run into each other.
Oh. It was just.
Oh, it's one of those. It's the old joke in motorsport rule 1 is don't hit your teammate. Motorsport rule 2 is read and fully understand rule number 1. Now I get it wasn't deliberate. It was because let's be honest, it was a scramble.
Everybody was everywhere. The fact that it wasn't that.
It's the fact that Perez did brilliantly.
Yeah, but
he just went straight across the gravel and grass and left.
But it was the fact that you'd had Sainz who tagged Alonso, spun Alonso around.
Basically slowed the entire pack round.
Yeah.
Sargent went so hard up the back of I'm not quite sure who. I'm not surprised he did. I'm surprised he have to buy him dinner afterwards.
Tell me about it.
Then which brings me on to a couple of points I'll make in a second once we've gone through it all. But
then you had everybody just scrambling to avoid Alonso. I'm guessing
the slow signs because he got out the gas as he'd seen the incident happening.
Yeah, and I'm guessing Ocon just did not. Either Gasly
Ocon
or
who cut across Gasly. I can't remember which way around
it was. Gasly was in front.
Yeah, just didn't realise the car was coming up his outside, and that car just happened to be the one that looks kind of like his.
Yeah, and talk about France United. Jesus.
And then we get to the next corner where Stroll goes straight on,
Yeah. It
and
was
then they
just,
decide to red flag it again because half the field is currently stationary in gravel traps.
yeah. It was just like, what? You could not script this shit. And I was just like, okay, well, they're done, aren't they? This is it. They're going to not call they're not going to call the race back.
I thought, I honestly, because I was talking, I said I couldn't see him going again. I
Yeah.
didn't think it was a point. But the only thing which threw it was because if they counted back a lap, the two Alpines would have still been in the running. Now, the rules say you must finish a race under your own steam.
Yep.
They don't specify on four wheels, bringing us back to Silverstone the other year, but they specify under your own steam.
Mm.
So I get why they did what they did because it just helped to shuffle the Alpines out the way, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But I do want to mention a point of this because we mentioned about Alonso and Sainz got a 5-second penalty for that incident.
A rather quick one, actually.
That's what she said. But I honestly feel that was really unfair considering they eventually rolled the thing back a lap, which basically removed any consequence of the incident because Alonso got promoted back into third. The car wasn't damaged.
Mm.
So I think if they'd have finished the race in the order it finished as that flag dropped, aka Alonso at the back, I would have said yes, penalise Sainz. But the fact that Alonso got given that third place back, I think Sainz's penalty should have been removed. Because he's then getting
Sainz wasn't
punished
given
for.
third place. Alonso was given third place.
I said Alonso, didn't I?
You said Sainz.
Anyway, yeah, Alonso was given third place back. At which point Sainz was actually penalised for an incident which in the end of race didn't happen. Because the lap it occurred on got null and voided.
Yeah. Did you hear the team radio?
Yeah,
The
I
poor
did.
guy
I also
sounded
heard
like he.
I also heard Sainz's interview after the race.
Oh, I didn't hear Sainz's
Basically,
interview.
yeah, I'm not talking about it. I will not talk about it. I do not want to talk about it.
Oh, is that's
Yeah, that's what Connor was alluding to.
Yeah, okay. Now I understand it. Yeah, no. I mean,
But yeah, I just feel, especially when Sargent didn't get a penalty. Let's just point it out. Sargent, like I said, I'm not quite sure who he hit. I'd have to try and look it up. But he absolutely demolished somebody.
Yeah.
I just think that I don't know how to word it other than to say what I said, which is how the incident that Sainz got penalised for was then removed from the race. If you get what I mean.
Yeah, the thing is, did they miss Sergeant walloping somebody? That was the thing, because it was never.
Possibly not, but camera footage had it. Camera footage had it.
Yeah, and there was a clear camera footage of Sainz walloping Alonso and all. But
yeah, but maybe yeah. Well, that actually goes into what I'm saying because there's inconsistency.
But then if you think about it, Sainz probably got that because look at the chaos that happened afterwards when he tagged him.
Yeah, but that goes
technically
even more into what I said.
Yeah, but technically that would be classed as causing a collision, and then that could have.
He hit De Vries.
Who did?
Sargent.
Ah.
So the two rookies managed to run into each other.
Great.
I get what you and that even puts it even more into what I'm saying because it put De Vries in the gravel trap. It put De Vries out the race. Okay, it also put Sargent out as well.
That's why they didn't. That's why they didn't look at it.
But it put De Vries out. The point I'm making, I get what you're saying, and yes, it was Sainz's incident that caused everything. But the race then got rolled back a lap.
Yeah, I know.
Now I get that you can't bring the cars back that are in the walls.
Example: the two Alpines.
But as I keep saying, the the penalty was for his incident with Alonso. You can't kind of take into account the wider world. You've got to look at the incident.
Yeah.
Now, the incident got reset because Alonso got put back in front of him.
Hmm.
Yet he kept the penalty. Do you get where I'm saying that
Yeah.
feels a bit unfair? Maybe anyone in the comments below, feel free to come in, idiot or whatever. If you think I'm missing something obvious, please let me know. But I just kind of think, I just feel like Sainz got punished for nothing right there. Sainz got punished for something which didn't happen in the eventual end of the race.
No, but but then you would have to, then you'd be like taking into account the fact that, why didn't Ocon get a penalty for punting his own teammate and causing his own teammate out of the race?
Because they generally don't give penalties for teammate accidents because they probably think the team will deal with that one internally.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. But you'd still, you know what I mean? It's still on that bracket. Well, if Sainz got punished, why didn't Ocon? And it's a weird.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not saying. We had a big thing last year. You, in particular, had a lot of rants about inconsistency in the FIA.
Oh yeah, don't get me
There,
wrong. I
there we've
know
had
I did,
There, in my opinion, we've had an inconsistency
but it wasn't the
in that
race.
Sainz got punished.
Yeah, but it wasn't the race director entirely. It was the stewards.
Oh, I'm not. I'm not trying to point fingers at anyone here. I'm not actually. I'm just sort of trying to make a point that
Basically, the
a,
stewards fucked up.
a, not a point. A point. A penalty is supposed to be there to rebalance things.
Yeah,
You
it
put a
kind of
guy off,
didn't.
you get a penalty, knocks you back down, sort of to try and redress the balance. Now, the way I see it, Sainz got penalised for something which actually didn't in the end cause any trouble because
Gun,
Alonso got back into third.
Steiner doesn't see it that way.
Yeah, but I'm sort of taking, like I said, you need to drill down to just the incident.
Yeah, I know, but this is
Because if you want to take that avenue, you could penalise Haas for Magnussen crashing that caused it all.
Yeah, I know.
Technically. But I'm not trying to argue that. That's a straw man argument. I'm not trying to take.
Oh, well, yeah, that's what I mean. We're not arguing this out. We're saying that,
My side of things, I do feel that was unfair on Sainz, is what I'm saying.
it was possibly unfair on Sainz over that because it was
And
just
it did absolutely screw Ferrari.
it did screw Ferrari because it put him back to 12th.
Yeah, because literally everybody was right behind him. Because he didn't have a chance to try and make the 5 seconds back because
Well, he
they didn't have
couldn't.
time.
He couldn't because it was
No.
basically restart, follow the safety car goes in, and still the rolling start rule applies, so he couldn't be overtook. So nobody could overtake each other because it was classed as a rolling start. But it was such a kerfuffle. I mean, it took them ages just to even go through them lot to go through all the bloody sporting codes.
Well, that was because they were trying to work out because it was sort of it was a weird position when because like I say,
because they wanted to make sure if he'd gone over, they wanted to make sure that they hadn't crossed a sector line.
They hadn't.
No, I know.
We know where sector 1 is.
That's what they were making sure that Max hadn't crossed it. Because if Max had crossed it, that order would have stuck before the red flag came out. But if Max had crossed that and we'd got red flagged, that order would have stuck. Alonso would have been out of the points. Haas would have been sitting with a nice tasty bit of points.
Well, both Alonso and Stroll, because Stroll ended up well back as well, didn't he? So.
But Stroll finished 4th in the end. And
I just want to raise a point I raised to you was 11 World Championships on that podium.
Yeah.
Pretty incredible. This would be one for Crofty. Is that the most World Champions we've ever had in a single podium?
Don't know. Maybe you might need to tweak Crofty on that one and ask him.
I don't think because we never had Hamilton, Vettel, and Alonso, which would have been the only way to beat it in my.
Yeah,
Because obviously Vettel had the four championships to
4.
his name. Obviously
Hamilton
Hamilton 7,
7,
and it is 7
Alonso.
Hamilton fans,
Yes, it is 7, and we will keep saying 7.
and then 2 each for Verstappen, Alonso.
Yeah,
Now I don't think there's ever been, because even through the Schumacher era, I don't think there was anybody that close. I don't think we ever had more.
no.
Yeah, there might be a tweet goes to Crofty later. I'll see what.
Make sure you tag me in it. Because that'd be interesting to find that result. It's just, it was it was probably one of the better Australia races we've had.
Now
It
I
was
like
good.
Australia.
I don't like driving the track, but that's a whole different reason. What were
But
you, what were you saying?
no, I was gonna say, I'm just gonna. That's all my points made. Yeah, I say I like the track. I've always liked Australia, and I was happy to see that the changes they made to it a couple of years ago didn't kill it. If anything, it's looking better than ever. The 4 DRS zones work nicely. I think we had some really good racing.
It was good racing. It really was. Like I say, it's probably one of the better Australia races we've had. I mean, the entire weekend was very interesting, including the weather. The weather didn't help certain bits.
Hmm. I don't know. Part of me was looking forward to a bit, maybe a wet Australian race.
That certainly would have shook things up
Yeah.
because the fact that it had hampered people's long runs, and that was what made this race interesting because not a lot of people got long runs at all through the weekend because of incidents and whatnot and red flags, and it really hampered a lot of teams on long run and quali sim prep.
Hmm.
It
Which
did.
is the kind of thing I like, because that's the kind of, that throws the confusion into the mix. Is when we can get some of the really interesting results.
I mean, let's run just. Oh yeah, I need to sort that out. But I'll sort that out in a minute. Um, you know, the interesting thing is, you got your race results. You had Bahrain, Verstappen, Saudi, Perez, and then obviously Max again. But Perez could have been fourth, but he was just in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Hmm.
There was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 DNFs for that
I think it's
race.
the most we've seen for quite a while.
Yeah. Well, obviously Gasly and Ocon was a kerfuffle. De Vries and Sargent, them two. K-Mag, his tyre his car just went bang. Russell was obviously his exhaust fire.
Hmm.
Albon was that spin, and Leclerc was just gravel trapped. I get why I get why they make the gravel traps the way they do. There's a hell of a lot of gravel in them gravel traps then. There has to
And
be.
these, it needs to be.
For the way that they slow the. I mean, the grass doesn't help things, of course. It really doesn't. So if I have a look at the points, obviously, who got fastest lap actually? Who did get the
Perez.
fastest lap? Perez did. Yeah,
Perez,
okay.
yeah. Perez got fastest lap and driver of the day, and driver of the day was well deserved in my book.
Obviously, I didn't vote. I couldn't vote because
You watched live, I did, and that's who I voted for.
I thought you were going to do Perez. So,
No, look, I take it subjectively. I won't vote for Perez blindly, but I think the pit lane to fifth, avoiding all the
oh
kerfuffle
yeah,
on the way, is worthy of it.
if I'd have been watching live, I would have chucked my vote at Perez just because of what happened.
Hmm.
And you've got to think. So, Max is now on 69 points. Perez is on 54.
Hmm.
There was 1 point in the championship between them two at that point before Australia.
Yeah.
Perez is still in with a shot.
Well, as it stands right now, nobody's out because it's still all to play for. I know there's other things involved in that, and you've got to take mathematically possible and logically are two different things. But don't rule anybody out yet. If Red Bull hit a streak of bad luck or something like that, you can suddenly find friggin' Alonso back on top of them.
Yeah.
You know, we're 3 races into a 23 race season.
I know, I'm not counting anybody out, but
Don't start engraving the trophy yet.
I mean, for me, currently top 4, obviously Verstappen, Perez, Alonso, and Hamilton.
Hmm.
And then you've got Sainz, Stroll, and Russell. So you basically got top 7 that could do something.
Well, I say right now all 20 can do it. Right now, mathematically, all 20 can do it. I'm not going to go further than that at this point because we are far too
But
early in the season to
Bar,
start.
Bar Logan Sargent and Nick De Vries possibly. They're still on 0 points.
Yeah, but mathematically, they could still win the championship from here.
Yeah, but they'd have to probably win every race and fastest lap it.
Oh yeah, possibly, but
And now, before we finish, it's time to look at what we usually look at. I've not looked at this. I don't know if David has.
I've had a look. Yeah,
And I don't know if I'm going to be pleasantly surprised. So, unfortunately, just ignore one of my tabs because I've had to keep a tab open. And no, don't
you
make any.
left your pawn up again.
No, I've left the GTA thing up. So,
It's alright.
here we go. Oh, wow!
Is it me or have those numbers closed up?
Between you and who?
Everybody, I seem to remember that I was a lot further behind.
Oh, yeah, you were a lot further behind.
I was still third, I'm pretty sure.
How have I got that?
Hacks.
Balls. Seriously? Oh, I put my 2 times down on so still. And
Actually,
obviously,
I had mine on Perez, which didn't do me any harm.
Max got me 36, Alonso got me 46, Ocon and Gasly only got me like 3 points between them. Bottas got me 12, Red Bull got me 98 because of Perez, and McLaren got me some points this time. So I basically got, for round 3, I got a total of 231 points. So, first race was 187. Second race was 349 because I had my 3 times down on max. And then, yeah, 231 points. That's, I mean, for me to be there, I'm quite impressed. Because basically, this is the only thing I'm winning at, even, you know.
Once again, mate, long way to go, yeah.
Yeah, so you got 100 points first race. You got 211 second. you had 2 times down on Perez and 3 times down on Sainz. And then, yeah, so Perez
So
did you Perez did you a solid there.
I've made some changes for next weekend, so we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, next weekend, 4 weeks.
Well, next race weekend, I meant.
Yeah, so it's gonna be a bit of that's gonna be crazy weekend and all. So yeah, I'm currently leading.
Not something you get to say very often, ladies and gentlemen.
No, apart from I could have had Paul at bloody Austria when we did the Austrian race if I hadn't screwed up a little bit. But yeah, I mean Alan, one of Alan's teams. That's like what got him 219. Only because he had 2 times on Norris and 3 times on Alonso.
Hmm.
And Leclerc got him minus 15, so he could have been a bit higher there if Leclerc hadn't screwed. I mean, he's not doing too bad. You
None of
still
us are doing.
you still have a hell of a lot of whip, to be honest. I hope if you can play this right, you could catch him and possibly me.
Oh yeah. Don't worry, it's not over yet, boy.
I know it's not over yet. This is going to be interesting.
Yep.
Anything you want to get me teeth in a minute? Anything you want to round out with?
Not really. Just I mean, have you got any thoughts for Baku? Have you got any predictions?
With it being a sprint weekend, I'm not predicting anything.
Fair enough.
That's what I mean. I mean, we used to do the predictions, but I can possibly see Red Bull being there, Perez being up there at least, hopefully, because street track, and he gets called the street track king.
Yep. Especially if it gets wet.
Yeah. Alonso is possibly going to be up there. I think Merc is going to be in the Merc will be in the mix. If they've done it, Ferrari, there's a possibility Ferrari might be there. But I think it's just going to be interesting because of it being a sprint and it's going to be a bit of a kerfuffle. I think. I can see them couple of teams possibly having to repair their cars. And what I mean by that is something's going to possibly happen. I mean, I could be wrong, but something is going to happen during the sprint race, and they're going to have to spend all night repairing it.
Gives him a busy weekend.
I mean, we've got a 4-week. We're going to have a 4-week gap, but this podcast will be out on the 14th. Might as well put it on the 14th. It'll be out on the 14th. Yeah. Like I said, I usually try and put it out on a Friday. Rather than put it out this week, I might as well do it next week, and then if we are thinking about it, we might do one. When's
I say we throw one in. We throw one in intermittently in the halfway gap.
Yeah, I think we should.
We can talk about wider F1 issues.
Yeah, we'll have to do some looking around and research and stuff.
Dig up a couple of points you might wanna.
So we're gonna end this one.
All that's left for me to say is thank you for listening, folks.
Yes.
And thank you for having me tonight.
So we're gonna end this one here, and he beat me to it, but thank you to David for being part of the podcast for
pleasure as always.
From last season to this season and many more, hopefully. Don't forget to like and subscribe and comment. Please leave your comments down below because we'll be interested to hear your thoughts on this one after the race. Don't forget you can support the channel. Links are in the description. brand new merch store, and obviously
I
there,
saw that. There's some great stuff on there.
there will be there is a link for that obviously in the description, and if you're quick, by the time the podcast goes out, there still should be some days to get 15% off on the items we have in there. So until next time, guys.
So long, and thanks for all the fish.
Goodbye for now.